What's up, everybody? It's No Shame here. Hey, I just wanted to take some time to reach out and kind of put together my final thoughts on this whole Miklo situation. You know, everybody knows we did that interview slash debate, if you want to call it that, the other day. To be honest with you, I'm not super thrilled with the way that thing turned out. Um, that's not my preferred way to conduct business. That's not my preferred way to have a conversation. I think a lot of people get it confused because there might be some people on here that only know me from the TikTok channel, and that is a very limited representation of who I am. That's really just like the comedy side of me. But anybody that's really dealt with me in the real world when it comes to issues in motorcycle clubs and stuff like that, and anybody who's really seen me on the podcast or paid attention to my writing, you probably know me on a different level. I like to handle things professionally. I like to give people their fair opportunity to speak, and I like to have well thought out, measured responses when somebody's asking a question or somebody's addressing something. And I don't think that those goals were accomplished on that episode. And to be honest with you, it's been kind of eating at me. And this whole thing that we're talking about isn't necessarily something that I want to be wasting energy on. But because of how that interview went and all the open-ended questions that didn't get answered and the unresolved nature of it, it's been sitting wrong with me. So against some of the other people on the page's wishes, I want to take this one last opportunity to address this. There's questions that were asked. There's things that were kind of left out in the open. I'm going to take my opportunity to address those things and to kind of go over different things that were asked during the show, maybe different things that happened beforehand that didn't get addressed yet, and some of the stuff that has happened afterwards. I've been getting a lot of phone calls and messages and stuff about hey, look at this, and I'm just really honestly tired of it. So I'm gonna put this out there. I don't want to talk about it anymore after this. I don't want somebody's phone call to tell me it was cool or it wasn't cool. Just let's all take the information and finally let this fucking thing die. So with that being said, let's jump into some of the things that do need to be addressed. So just to give you guys a brief overview of how we got to this fucking point. Back when pretty much everybody on this page was writing for Cycle Free MC, Miklo came out with the MC for Life page. Now, according to him, before that, he was writing for Black Dragon on Black Dragon Biker TV or whatnot. We didn't know about him then. We first found out about him when he started this MC for Life thing. And to be honest, when it came out, there was some provocative stuff in there, in the sense that it kind of challenged some, norms in the community and whatnot. And there were some thought-provoking things that were being written. There were instances early on when he would state things as history, and it wasn't necessarily that it was wrong history, in the sense that he just made it up. It was wrong in the sense that it was commonly misbelieved or misinterpreted things that we had found proof was wrong. So we, certain members of our page went onto his page and left some comments that weren't disrespectful in nature, just kind of informative in nature at first, and it was met with a lot of animosity. And I didn't pay a ton of attention to the back and forth exchanges, but I could imagine that it got a little out of hand. I'm sure there was some clowning involved in it, and whatever. That's kind of how this back and forth started happening. And there was disrespectful things said on his behalf. I'm sure there was disrespectful things said on our behalf, because let's just be honest, dude. If you start fucking going down this weird road with us, we tend to fucking clown the shit out of people that are clowns. I mean, I don't know a better way to fucking say it. But that's how this whole thing got started, and then it got rehashed recently because somebody on TikTok had said something about him. I think there was a person or two that may or may not have been associated with Four for the Road that were like kind of getting in some jabs on one of his videos, and he dropped this thing that said "Four for the Feds," and I got tagged in that comment. So to me, it was like, okay, "Four for the Feds," whatever. So I made a very simple video about him, basically saying like, "Oh yeah, we're feds, just like you're a real club." In so many words, you know. And he made this video where he was like real fucking upset. I'm talking about how I'm a kick-ass motherfucker, and one of these days he's gonna see me out in public. Whatever, dude. Like, I don't know. So it's just like, now I'm under your skin. So I made more videos about him. He made other videos, and it was like kind of like this back and forth thing. And I think his account ended up getting banned. I know all of my videos started getting reported, even shit that didn't have to do with it. And then he wrote a long, really like weird article about the whole exchange. Name dropped a bunch of people that he really had no business name dropping. And Professor then engaged him on Facebook and kind of talked him into like coming on, and the whole interaction was supposed to be like an attempt to maybe clear the air and find like a possible middle ground or whatnot. And it didn't turn out that way. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the background. So now we can kind of get into addressing some of the stuff that's happened since. All right, the first comment I want to address is from Facebook. It says, "To be honest, I didn't really watch any of this. I don't really know what all they were talking about. I just know I clicked on it, and they were talking about one percenter and outlaw shit, and there's a woman on it. I don't know or care who belongs to what page, but whoever was running this should have told her to kick rocks and leave the room. The total lack of protocol and complete disrespect to the whole MC community by everyone on that event for following her, for allowing her there without someone saying to get that bitch out." So let's address that. There's a female in the video. Okay. We are broadcasting this video live to everybody. This conversation isn't a conversation that people would have in a clubhouse behind closed doors. There are things that are said in this kind of format that aren't said in those kind of rooms. There are women watching the entire thing and commenting in the comment section. So to remove her from the room, if that would make you feel better, sure, I guess, but it doesn't address the fact that we're having a conversation in front of the entire fucking world. So does anybody need a further explanation on that? I don't get it. And then the thing that also, to go into this, like, cool, like, I guess if you guys want to go out and comment about the dude's old lady, like, fine, that's not my bag. I've never gotten down like that. It's like not what I choose to do. But, you know, on the same token, if something gets put out there on the internet, then, I mean, fuck, dude, you did it to yourself. So if you want to parade your old lady around on the internet, then don't get mad when people say things about her. I'm not going to. That's not my personal get down. But if people are doing it in the comments, problem. Sorry, it's not me. Alright, up next we got another Facebook comment. "Let us not forget that every club in existence was a pop-up club at one time, and I'm willing to bet the big 1% clubs never asked anybody for permission to fly their patch. So why is it that they get all uptight when other folks do it? Are they hiding something? Because it is said that those clubs aren't gangs. But if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a friggin' duck. Laugh out loud." Okay. I almost feel stupid even giving this attention, but it needs to be fucking done because there's an issue here. Alright. Not every club that starts and is new is a pop-up club. I've said this multiple times. I've said it over and over again. Other people have said it. There are ways to start a new club that do not make it a pop-up club. What makes something a pop-up club? Well, in my opinion, it's a pop-up club if it's a group of guys that have no idea how an MC works, and they start an MC. And that's what's happening in this situation, as far as I can tell. Look, there's plenty of ways you can get together with your buddies and ride around and not try and emulate something that is already there. All right, the EMC community has been around for over 100 years. It's evolved, it has its own traditions, it has stood the test of time, and it's a community based on traditions and based on certain things that are understood throughout all the clubs that are involved in it. And the reason behind that is simply for the benefit of all those involved in that community, for the preservation of that history, and for the longevity of the clubs that choose to participate in it. Now, if you're going to choose to participate in it, then you should participate in it in the proper way. Nobody's telling anybody ever that you can't get together with a group of your friends and go out and ride your bikes and paint little funny pictures on your backs and call each other like whatever names you want. But there are certain things that you're trying to emulate when you put a vest on, you call it an MC, and then especially when you get on Facebook or any social media platform and then try to preach what an MC is, when you in fact don't know what it is. Okay? Most of the time when something like this happens, the only thing that's going to happen in the sense is people are going to come to you and try to educate you on what you're doing wrong and how you can do it better. Most of the time, nobody's even going to really give a shit if you just exist in your little pocket and fucking hide and do your own little thing like Miklo claims he's trying to do. But when you come out and you put yourself out there, then you're putting yourself out there subject to the scrutiny of all those involved. Now, there are things that we do in the 1% world that revolve around betterment and preservation of the community. So, if all of these clubs were starting up and you just had everybody just popping up all over the place, don't you think that clubs would experience other clubs that had the same name as them, or had the same patch design as them, or had very similar looking patch designs to them? And can't you see how that would cause conflict that is really unnecessary? Versus a club coming to the clubs that are already in existence, saying, hey, I like what you're doing, I like this community, I want to be involved in this community. I want to start a club and I want it to look like this and be called this. And then if there's other people within that network of clubs, they could say, okay, cool, well, these guys already call themselves that, and these guys already have a patch that looks like that. Can't you change it? Do you mind making your name slightly different? Or do you mind making your patch slightly different so we don't cause undue offense? And then, hey, like, why don't you come to these events without any patches for a little bit? Maybe see if you even like it. Maybe see if this is even the community that you want to be involved in. And, it's worth noting that if you're at that point in your journey where you don't even know anybody in the world, you need that fresh education. When you're at these events, maybe start thinking about, hey, do I need to be starting my own club? Look at all these clubs out here that can provide me real-time mentorship on the level that I need to be mentored at. Like, really, in reality, the only people that should be starting a new club, if it even ever needs to happen, which I don't necessarily think it does, are people that have already been in clubs for a while. How can you say that I'm going to do something new and different if you've never experienced what's already out there? And in my experience, a lot of these guys that are saying, like, oh, all these other clubs out here are fucked up, I'm going to start my own thing, yada yada, those are people that are disenfranchised for whatever reason. And a lot of times, dude, a lot of times they're the problem, okay? But let's just say, for argument's sake, that you're still a new guy in the fucking thing, you still got all your fresh green buddies, and you still want to go about this. Alright, well, let's start getting your patches finalized, and let's start putting them on, some sweaters and t-shirts and stuff, and maybe you can wear those for a while, and then if you guys really like the community and you want to be a part of it, then we can take those steps to get you to become a club in the right way. Because the community as a whole isn't set out to gatekeep, and it's not set out to stop people from doing things freely. It's set out to mentor and teach people how to do things in the right way. It's set up so that people that have been here doing it for years, for decades, aren't being disrespected by some person off the street who thinks that they're now a thing. They're claiming to be what others have earned. What others have earned over years and decades of blood, sweat, and tears. And what is earned can never just be fucking taken. You can't just call yourself something and then expect that other people are going to recognize you as that. And that's the other piece of this, is everybody's talking about recognition in the same sense as permission. Now there's in this question, he's talking about 1% clubs not going to other 1% clubs for permission. Okay? And I'm going to address this on a historical aspect in a second, but I really want to clear the record up on this. When I said in that interview, you're not a 1%er because nobody recognizes you as a 1%er. I'm not saying you get recognition by going to somebody and asking for permission. You're talking about being blessed or something, but like you said, a 1%er wouldn't have to do that, would they? Everybody would just know that they're a 1%er because the community recognizes their actions, they recognize the way that they conduct themselves, they recognize that they have the ability to make it as a club in this world. You know how many clubs I've seen start up and then fail within the first year? How many do you think make it past 5 years? It's few and far between. So for a club to start and immediately say, I'm a 1% club, is asinine. The amount of hubris that it takes for an individual to say that I'm going to do this thing that 1,000 people have tried and failed at, and I'm going to be the best of the best at it, without even making it a week, is ridiculous. So understand the difference between a new club and a pop-up club. The first 1% clubs were not pop-up clubs. And we can go down the history of those clubs later, and we have gone down the history of those clubs. But the thing that makes this a pop-up club situation is you have uneducated people, uneducated in the way that the MC world works. People that have never been in clubs before. People that are out bad from clubs for fucking up. And they're coming together and they're saying, we're going to do this thing. And we're not going to do it the way that it's been done for decades. But we're also going to cherry pick the things that we want out of it. And we're going to ask that everybody recognizes us as legitimate. See, if you were out in the woods and at a fucking creek bed and camping by yourselves like you say, then I don't think anybody would ever fucking have anything to say to you. But it's the fact that you're coming out into the public space looking for recognition that is making people look at you in a sense of, you're fake. You didn't do this the right way. See, nobody's saying that a 1% club has to go get permission from another 1% club to be a 1% club. That seems to be the argument that people like to make, but that's not what anybody is saying. Now, when a 1% club comes into an area that they haven't been in before, do they go sit down with other clubs in that area? Abso-fucking-lutely. It's a respect thing. If I don't have a problem with another 1% club, and I'm going to go start a chapter or start bringing guys into an area that they already exist in, it's disrespectful to go into that area and just do that without talking to anybody. See, that's where there's people talking about like protocol being a negative thing. Protocol exists so that people don't have issues with each other. If I'm in Club A and I don't have a problem with Club B anywhere in the world, but Club B has been building something in this area for decades. Say it's their fucking house. Let's put it in these terms. Club B has built their fucking house from the basement to the foundation to the walls to the fucking roof. Is it appropriate for me as Club A to set up a fucking tent in their front yard without knocking on their goddamn door first? No, it's not appropriate. So I'm gonna go knock on their door. And if maybe it's not their front yard, maybe it's the fucking empty lot next door. It's still a fucking common courtesy as a neighbor to knock on the fucking door and say, hey bud, I'm gonna put this tent up over here. Just wanted to let you know. I'm not asking anybody for permission. I'm just letting them know. And that's one of the things that Blade had to say, is that we talked to these guys and we didn't ask them for permission. That's fine. I don't give a fuck about that. But when we say you are not recognized as a club, okay, that's all we're saying. Nobody recognizes you. Nobody sees you as a 1%er just because you put that 1%er patch on. Nobody's calling you to the tables to have discussions about things that actually matter in this community. No real conversations are taking. Nobody's saying, oh, can we wait till the fucking Los Perros get here before we talk about this? It's not fucking happening. That's what I mean about not being recognized. Alright, so I said that I would address the historical piece of 1% clubs asking for permission. And I'm going to do that in this section. So, I feel like there's a false nostalgia when we're talking about Miklo and this guy Blade and the Los Perros and all this stuff. And I can't really necessarily blame them for having this false nostalgia. A lot of it, I'm sure, just comes from, I can't blame them, I guess, because it's ignorance, you know. But nobody asked you to start a fucking club and claim to be a 1%er and start a fucking page to tell people how much you know about shit. So in that sense, yeah, I can't blame you for your own ignorance. Okay, I'm gonna read this quote. And this quote came from Tom Fugel, one of the legendary founders of the El Forastero MC. Alright? And this is not a quote that was taken and written down by somebody. He actually wrote this himself. So, in 1960, some motorcycle races were held in Tecate, Mexico. Some problems or disagreements came up, and part of the town caught fire. A newspaper later reported that only 1% of the motorcyclists caused the trouble. Almost as a joke, the 1%er group was formed by the clubs that were there. In the summer of 1962, when the club was started, the 1%er was used as part of the original El Forastero patch. This remains the same today. In 1965, Tiny, Tom, and Pegleg Dave went to California to meet with the Hells Angels and the Satan's Slaves. The El Forastero MC was then officially accepted into the 1%er organization. Inter-club relationships based on the 1%er do not exist now. Alright, the reason I'm reading that piece to you is so that people can understand the difference of what the nostalgic old 1%er was. So Miklo has this narrative of the 1% organization being completely removed from society. And you know what? I'll play you that clip now.
I completely disagree that anybody has to recognize you. Kind of the whole point behind building an outlaw club, a 1% club, as I was taught, is to separate yourself from all outside entities trying to impose their will upon you. And that was the AMA, society, politicians, everybody. That's the whole point. We create our own rules, and that's what we live by. Me and my brothers together, under whatever system we deem fit, we come up with our rules, and that's our government.
All right, and that sounds like a great romantic idea of what being a 1%er, what being an outlaw is. And it's fine, you know, if that's your definition of it, cool. It's missing a couple things, and I'll get into that later. But did you guys catch the difference in the beginning, right? He's romanticizing this old school way of what he thinks a one percenter is, but missing the piece where Tom Fugel mentions going to the 1% organization and asking to be officially recognized. You can't have both, right? You can't have the old one percenter mentality of removing yourself from society, but then also not have that one percenter mentality of not going to the previously established clubs to be accepted into that circle of outlaws, because that's how it was back then. And see, then the whole society of outlaw one percenter has changed over time for a lot of reasons, and we can go into the history of that, but that's a whole episode in its own. So it leads me into this other Facebook comment where this guy says, when did one percenters become the go-to for guidance? Was never meant to be role models. Probably right around the same time that clubs started having people prospect for 1 year at a time, and for a lot of the same reasons. Look, what used to be the one percenter outlaw way has changed and it's morphed over time. For a lot of reasons, and we get into those reasons, and we do the history on all those reasons, and a lot of it is mistakes that clubs made and this and that. But just like any organization that you get into, right, you're going to have different levels of mentorship along the way, and that's really what the 1% role has become, and then what it's kind of morphed into. They are supposed to be those individuals that have the highest level of dedication to their clubs and to the community and to motorcycling in general. They're supposed to be those ones that have the biggest wealth of experience within their nation to be able to draw from, and they should have these high expectations and levels of conduct for themselves and for how they interact with the community. And a lot of that goes into how the different communities are managed all across the country. Like you might not even have this fall into a one percenter's lap. This might be something where if you have an area where there is no 1% presence, the clubs in that area might get together in something like a COC type fashion, where they're then setting the guidelines to how we bring new clubs into this community. And that's not to say that those clubs that aren't involved in that can't function on their own, but a lot of this stuff is like as trivial as who's going to be able to throw a party this weekend so that we're not stepping on somebody else's toes, so that next weekend it can be somebody else's party and then everybody can go to it. Could be something that trivial. It could be something as little as a new club's coming in and we need to make sure their patch design doesn't infringe on somebody else's existing patch design. They're little things like that. Maybe two clubs got into an argument and they need somebody to mediate that argument. A lot of times that falls to the one percenter that is overseeing that area, or that's in that area, managing that area, however you want to put it. People make it out to be like this big extortion thing, and that's not what it is at all. If done correctly, it's really like a big brother mentoring and overseeing the little brothers as they move around and learn and gain experience in this world. And not everybody even needs to go up to that level. Not everybody wants to take it that seriously. But the problem is, it is that serious. There is that level of responsibility. You do owe certain things to the community. Like when he was saying that this old one percenter told him he'd rather just spend his time with his brothers, but he's got to go shake hands with all these people and then come back. Yeah, he has to shake hands with those people because part of his responsibility is knowing the clubs in his area, knowing the individuals that are moving around in his area, so that he can properly interact with them, so he can properly steer the direction. And a lot of it simply has to do with making sure that there are no issues, with making sure that people aren't getting into fucking fights, people aren't getting jumped, people aren't getting butthurt over dumb shit. A lot of it is really just like herding cats and babysitting, if you want to call it that. But like, if you take it to heart, it is true mentorship. And then when we talk about like the churched up Hollywood version of things, then we get into like these uneducated opinions. So let me just roll this clip.
If a person or a club says they're a 1% club, then they're a 1% club. I'm not here to take it off their vest, and if you feel like they're not, then you take it off their vest and so be it.
That whole narrative of let's just go take people's patches and they hold it until they hold the title until somebody takes their patches. It's so played out. It's like this stigma that doesn't represent reality. That like all these people are out here just snatching patches. I think that shit fucking probably came from Sons of Anarchy. Do patches get taken from time to time? Have they gotten taken before Sons? Sure. But I think like that whole piece of it, that shit just got so blown out of fucking control. Like everybody's just out here constantly just fucking cutting people's patches off. That shit probably happens more often inside of an organization than it happens outside of organizations. But that's not like the role of a fucking 1%er. That's not the role of a 1% club. It's not the role of a dominant to go around just fucking snatching patches off of people. Look, a lot of this shit nowadays happens fucking with the mouth versus with the fucking sword. There's all this fucking just crazy hyped up bullshit. It's just bullshit. The way that people try and make this world seem, Are there grown ass men that stand on their shit? Yeah. Do people come out of pocket sometimes and get their asses whooped in this community? Yes. Do outlier events of violence happen? Yes. Is it the normal day-to-day thing? No, absolutely not. Which brings me to like the final thing, and let me just wrap this fucking thing up, right? The big question is, why even do this in the first place? Why even talk about Miklo? Why have Miklo come on the show? Why am I sitting here right now wrapping up my thoughts on this and just putting out this final piece of closure? And I'm going to say it like this, dude. Like, if Miklo and his buddies started this club and they put whatever fucking patches on they wanted to, and they went and they hid in the woods and rode their motorcycles and never tried to force themselves into the community, then I would have zero fucking opinion on them. I don't actually even care that the guy has a 1% patch on. That shit doesn't... The 1% patch is on everybody's fucking vest. Nobody gives a fuck anymore. And where I say that people aren't 1%ers until they're recognized as 1%ers, I exactly mean that. And I mean recognize, like other clubs acknowledge that you are what you say you are, because the patch don't mean shit anymore. The world used to be so much bigger. Before the internet, before everybody had a cell phone, people from different areas, before the 1% thing was so fucking mainstream and commonplace, might recognize somebody's patch and say, that tells me something about that club, and maybe I'll approach this situation in a different manner. But now, everybody knows about 1% clubs. Everybody thinks they know what the inner workings are. And everybody wants to try and emulate that, and they fucking throw that thing on their fucking brand new club. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm a fucking badass. I listen to my own fucking rules. Let me just fucking put this fucking thing on. And they have no fucking clue. And that's the whole problem with this whole situation, is you have somebody who doesn't have a clue, who wasn't in a club, who never went through the fucking trials and tribulations of not only just prospecting for a club, but prospecting for a respected 1% club that has earned their fucking place in this community, has earned the respect of this community. I might not like every fucking club out there, but I have enough respect for the established clubs' histories to never say you're not a fucking 1%er. But this situation, no, you are not a fucking 1%er, dude. You have not gone through the things that it takes to prove yourself, your club, your organization, any of it as being that. You haven't even been around for long enough to fucking even matter. Like, you haven't proven that your organization will even last a decade. But you think that you've earned the right to call yourself something that represents being the pinnacle of what it takes to be in the MC world. It's obnoxious. It is absolutely asinine in its very nature to think that you can come into somebody else's world, say, this person told me a little bit about it, I think I understand what it means, now I'm that. You have no idea. You have no idea what it means. Somebody could watch every podcast I've ever done. You could read every single article on Four for the Road. And if you've never been in a motorcycle club, you will not know what it means to be in a motorcycle club. There are things that I will say on this platform, and then that's the limit of it. There are things that I'll say to my brothers that nobody on the internet will ever fucking hear. There are things that a prospect goes through that you will never understand by reading an article or by watching a YouTube video. There are things that a member of a 1% club goes through, deals with, fucking has to live with, that you cannot learn from stories. I don't care how fucking cool the guy is that told you those stories. I don't give a shit how old he is or what club he came from. And the stories that he is telling you, a non-member of his club, are not the same stories and lessons that he is teaching his brothers. So why do I give a fuck about this individual? Well, this individual decided to take his club and create a platform where he puts out information into the world that is not always accurate, it is disingenuous, and it is coming from a place of inexperience and ignorance. And when corrections are attempted to be made to his way of thinking in a civilized manner, he rejects that approach and he rejects that criticism and does not allow people who have actually been involved and gone through all of these things to correct his way of thinking, his inaccurate and flawed way of thinking. He puts this message out and it appeals to those who have been disenfranchised from the traditional ways of doing things in the MC world. Some of that is to the fault of the MC world. I will acknowledge that. Some clubs, some chapters of some clubs, some people in some areas have fucked certain things up. Some things have gotten out of line. And part of the fucking problem of things getting out of line is everybody, every Tom, Dick, and fucking Harry jumping up and saying, I'm a 1%er. I'm going to put this patch on. And I think it means I'm going to be a badass. And then they go do badass things. I think it means I'm going to be a criminal. And then they go do criminal things. I think it means I'm just going to fucking ride my bike around and nobody can tell me what to do. And then they're fucking so close-minded that they don't listen to people that are trying to save them from fucking shit up even more. So for everybody out there, and this goes beyond the fucking Miklo fucking bullshit, for everybody out there that thinks they know what it means, but you're out here acting a fucking fool, jumping motherfuckers, stabbing motherfuckers, shooting motherfuckers for no goddamn fucking reason. You're out here starting shit for the fucking community. You're out here extorting and exploiting other fucking clubs and other fucking riders in your area. For all you fucking people that are telling these false fucking tales, that are name dropping, that are dry snitching, all you dumb fucking motherfuckers ruining the community that I love so fucking much. Go fuck yourself, dude. Go fuck yourself and take a fucking step back and learn what it fucking means to be a man in this fucking community. Learn what it means to be a steward of the community that you claim to fucking love so much. Because until you're willing to humble yourself enough to learn, you will never be able to fucking teach. And if you try to teach from a position of hubris and a position of ignorance and a position of closed-minded fucking thinking, You're doomed to fucking be exposed as the fraud that you are. I know the fucking real people in this community already understood all this. But for those of you on the fringes, for those of you trying to figure out what's the right fucking way, you can find it here. Don't go to some fucking guy that's trying to sell you a dream that never fucking lived the real life. That's all I'm going to say on it. I'm fucking done with the whole conversation. Take it for what it is.